Truthfully, there's nothing worse than looking outside and seeing your dog eating a pile of poop. And we got to ask ourselves why? Why are they doing it? Is it because it tastes good? That just doesn't seem right. So on this week's episode, we're going to talk about the many reasons your dog might be eating poop. Let's get into it next. Well, let's get this week's podcast going. Hey, everybody, this is Jake from On Dog Training Academy, and you're listening to the Learn, Laugh, Bark podcast. Welcome. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about that really gross topic of poop eating and why our dogs are doing it. This is a question that a lot of clients a lot of clients ask about because it's a very common occurrence. And I mean, quite frankly, it's just disgusting, right? You don't want to get kisses from your dog ever after you see him munching down on a pile out in the yard. Like, that's the last thing you want, is your dog to come in and lick your face. And so we need to be able to try and stop this, or at the very least, we need to understand possibly why our dog is doing it. And there's a lot of different things that could be leading up to it. And I think the best way to do it is we're just going to go through them all, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to say, okay, if this is going on, what are some things you can do to stop it? Now, there's not always a clear-cut, obvious reason for why your dog is doing this. So, like in many cases, if you're concerned and not really finding an answer, consult your veterinarian and they can run some tests and figure some stuff out as well. So, the first one, which I think is one that's pretty commonly known, I should say, in the world when it comes to dogs eating poop, is a nutritional deficiency. And this could be because you're feeding a low-quality food and they're just not getting the nutrients, or you're feeding a food that just, even if it's a quality food, maybe it's just missing something that your dog needs. And when dogs feel like they have a nutritional deficiency, what they tend to do then is try to make it up by eating other things. And this could be like pica, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit later, or it could be something just as simple as, well, they're just going to try to eat the poop or other edible things, grass, whatever, to try and make up for it. And their poop is such an easy thing for them to eat. And sometimes to them, for whatever reason, if it smells appetizing, it is appetizing. It's disgusting, but it is what it is. So something I like to do to kind of help with nutritional deficiencies, if I think that's it, is to make sure that the food I'm giving them is high in like vitamin B and things like that. It's getting those nutrients that they need. And a vitamin B deficiency is one that I do believe could make them want to eat poop, but also vitamins A, D, essential minerals like zinc, magnesium. Those are things that can also, if they're deficient in them, can make them want to go eat because their body is just not functioning correctly. And so this is something to consider. So maybe if you're feeding the same food, in my opinion, if you're feeding the same food over and over and over, and you're not changing your protein, you're not changing variety. I like to personally mix my food up. Now, we feed raw, but I'll mix up the different proteins I'm putting in. We also have different types, so sometimes I'll feed them venison from my own supply, or we'll buy the pre-made raw food, or we'll do a freeze-dried raw food. Like, we mix it up so that they're getting different types of food that's going to have slightly different amounts of nutrients in it. Also, if you're concerned, if you're feeding kibble, you can just get some sort of a powder that you can add to their food, some sort of nutritional supplement that you can add to their food just to make sure that all your bases are covered, right? I kind of think of it as like Swiss cheese. There's always going to be there's holes in your dog's diet, just like there's holes in ours. And so if we can supplement it some, that's just going to help, and it's going to help your dog not feel like they have to go out and eat poop. So that's the first one. The next one's a learned behavior. So believe it or not, this is something they can learn as a puppy. And not just because, the puppy's curious. That is certainly something. A puppy can be curious and start eating poop, just exploring its world. But also, that's how the mom cleans the babies. So it's a learned behavior through watching the mother and the mother cleaning them. The mom eats the poop. And so if you had a dog that had puppies and suddenly your dog is eating poop, that could be why. But also, if you have a puppy that's really interested in eating poop, that's just something that they may have learned. Now, ways you can definitely stop this is by being out there, not only cleaning up after it, and I think that's always the underlying solution for most of this, is just to clean up after your dog, but also just interrupting, if you see them turning around to check it out, I immediately will interrupt the behavior like that and just tell them no, tell them whatever you need to do to get them distracted. You could even start to go back to something like, if you have a puppy or an older dog, you can go back to maybe something you did when they were a puppy. As soon as they poop, you then praise them and call them over to you and give them a treat. So you're basically redirecting the behavior as opposed to them turning around and trying to eat poop. You're then saying, hey, come to me and eat treats. It's going to get the dog to not focus on what's happening behind them when they're done and more what's happening in front of them, which is you. So that's just another thing to definitely think about. The next one is pica. And that's basically, pica is the craving of non-edible, non-food, I shouldn't say edible, everything for a dog could be edible, non-food items. It's common. Your dog will want to eat just everything, kind of. It's an eating disorder, and they just want to eat things such as like wood, and maybe eating some, you'll have a dog who wants to eat rocks or maybe some metal stuff, and it can also lead to them wanting to eat poop. And again, it's a lack of nutrients or some sort of dietary imbalance. And it's just something, again, we just need to interrupt. Adding high quality multivitamins is definitely something that can help. Keeping them occupied, like we talked about, is something that helps with this. Training it away, basically, by giving them that hey, come to me instead. And then, of course, with pica and with deficiencies, it's always good to consult a veterinarian and say, hey, this is going on. You can easily, we'll hit that at the end. We'll hit this at what I was just going to say at the end. The next one is hunger. So this one's tougher because it's tougher to diagnose if you think your dog is getting enough food. This is tough. But if you're not feeding your dog, if your dog is underweight, or if you got a dog, maybe you got a rescue or a puppy, and they're just underweight, eating poop could just be a survival thing for them. Like they feel like, I have to eat, I haven't gotten enough, nutritionally I'm deficient, I'm hungry still, so I'm going to eat whatever I can. Again, pica can form from this as well, but just straight hunger can make your dog want to eat poop. And, it's just something to kind of keep an eye on. Again, the way you would work on this is giving them a multivitamin, but also making sure you're giving them enough food. If your dog looks underweight and they're eating poop, that's a telltale sign that your dog is probably not getting what they need, and they're trying to supplement it by eating poop. It's gross, but it's true. So making sure that you're giving them enough food and making sure the food is quality. That is always, I think, important. There's another one that could be, it could be a parasite, and it's gross. It sounds gross, but again, and you're going to see an underlying theme with a lot of these. But a lot of parasites, because the parasites are feeding on the dog, again, what the parasites are doing is they're taking nutrients that the dog needs and they're taking them for themselves to survive. And the dog then goes, I'm deficient. So you might go, well, gosh, I am giving my dog these powders. I am giving my dog everything they need, and they're still trying to eat poop. It must be behavioral. Well, let's rule out parasites as well. So getting a fecal test done, I think, is always a good thing to try and make sure that they're not doing, they don't have any problems. They don't have any sort of worms, Giardia, different things like that. It's always good to rule that stuff out just in case. I know Giardia is Giardia a parasite? Maybe it's not. No, I don't think it is. Either way, I feel very stupid for not knowing the answer to that. But either way, but making sure, gastrointestinal parasites, your roundworms, hookworms, tapeworms, your external parasites, so you're looking at like fleas, ticks, things like that. Heartworm, that's always a big one. A lot of people use preventatives for that, as we do. And then, so I'm looking at my notes, and I did write Giardia here. So Giardia is a protozoal parasite. So Giardia, coccidia, those type of things. If you notice your dog is eating poop, it's always good. Usually with these things, with some of these parasites, vomiting, diarrhea, you're going to see other things besides just eating poop. You might actually see the parasites themselves when they do poop. You might get coughing, lethargy, weight loss, dehydration. There's a lot of symptoms of your dog if they have parasites, but sometimes with Giardia, we don't do it anymore, but like we used to do boarding only for a long time. And we do require any dogs that come through our program, we require fecal, and it's a test with Giardia and stuff. And you'd be surprised how many times Giardia is there, but doesn't show any symptoms, at least at that time. So these are things that can linger that you may not see. So again, getting him to the vet. Your solution for that is getting him to the vet and making sure. And then if it does come back positive with something, at least it gives you an answer. And everything is pretty much treatable to a degree. Like you can pretty much treat everything. You can then manage of maybe you don't let your dog drink nasty water or eat rabbit poop or get into certain things, chicken, whatever. And so it's easy enough to manage. But using preventatives, I think, is the best thing to do anyways. Another one is attention-seeking behavior. Attention-seeking behavior is common. Think about dogs stealing shoes, playing keep away, chewing on your couch, barking at you, jumping on you. They're all attention-seeking behavior. Well, if your dog turned around and started sniffing the poop and you yelled at them, your dog could have went, "Oh, you're paying attention to me because I'm sniffing this. Well, then I'm going to grab it and play keep away." And it kind of manifests from there where your dog then starts to eat poop and it just becomes a big problem. It's easy enough, I think, to train to a degree. My whole thing is if I'm going to interrupt my dog and my dog isn't seemingly wanting to be fazed by it, by me interrupting them for poop, then I'm going to have to go to doing like leash walks or something like that. And again, going back to like rewarding positive behaviors is always, I think, something that's important. So when your dog does leave the poop alone, rewarding that as opposed to always just yelling at the dog for going after the poop, which we still have to, but we just minimize it. It also can be stress related. I think that one's a little more, I don't see that quite as often. But it is something that can definitely come up. Dogs have weird tics when they get stressed. So that could be one where the dog just goes out and starts chomping down some grass, eating poop, chewing on dirt, doing different things. Also, and the one I will touch on here for medical conditions or for a medical reason it could be is that through whatever reason, the dog's body is just not able to absorb the nutrients that are needed, right? So your dog is sick with something. We had a dog that had this. We had a dog that could do this, and I think it's called malabsorption. I want to say that's the word. Basically, not enough nutrients from its regular diet, but it's where the dog's digestive system actually isn't able to properly absorb nutrients. So it's actually not just about giving your dog more nutrients. It's about figuring out why, and figuring out like what can I do to get my dog to absorb these nutrients, especially if I'm giving my dog everything they need with vitamins, minerals, things like that, and they're getting a quality food. We had a dog who had a whole lot of stuff going on. It was our Basset Copper. He's no longer with us. He lived to be 12, and he died crotchety old Basset Hound, so it wasn't from this, but he got bit by a wood tick, and the wood tick had ehrlichiosis in it, which basically then caused his whole system to crash, immune system, everything. And we did ultrasounds. We figured out his organs weren't happy. We got him on some medications and stuff. But long term, one thing we noticed is anytime we went to take him off, because he was on prednisone, he ended up being on prednisone, I think, from age like 9 or 8 till he died at 12. And anytime we tried to wean him off prednisone, our other dog at the time, about a week after he'd be weaned off, our other dog at the time would start to really want to try and eat his poop. And we were trying to figure out why that was. And we figured out shortly after our dog would start to try and eat the poop, our Basset Hound would start to crash again. And so we'd have to put him on metronidazole, which is like an intestinal antibiotic, and back on prednisone, and then we just ended up keeping on prednisone for life, and then we never had this issue again. But his body wasn't able to absorb the nutrients. So we were starting adding like digestive enzymes, probiotics, prebiotics to their diet to help enhance it. And that might be something you have to look into. Like if my dog's not getting the absorption needed, then I need to do something about that. And it's just common. It's definitely something that's common for dogs to do. Now, that is all of the main reasons. I think we've touched on all of them. What I will say, and I mentioned this before, is consult with a veterinarian. Like, don't be afraid to reach out to the vet and say, here's the problems I'm having. You can try and solve them on your own, and there are things that you can do, adding fiber, making sure their environment's clean, everything like that. Those are things you can do, but reaching out to the vet's going to give you some better answers. There are a lot of products out there. There's one, I think it's called Distaste. There's, I think there's a lot of different things where you can add it to their food that makes their food unappetizing. And here's the problem with that, though. It's kind of like having like a broken leg and taking pain pills, but not doing anything else. So basically, yeah, you may be getting rid of one thing, but you're not clearing up the issue. You're not treating the broken leg. You're just taking something to sort of mask the problem. And that's what you're doing with the dog. If your dog has deficiencies, using some sort of like nasty or something to make the poop more non-appetizing to the dog, yeah, it might work. The dog might not eat it, but it's not fixing the overlying issue that your dog is having some sort of deficiency or having a behavior issue or something like that. Behaviorally, yeah, maybe adding something like that could definitely curve the dog's behavior and make the dog not want to do it anymore, of course. But you always want to rule out medical stuff. When behaviors pop up, especially if it pops up out of nowhere, like if I have a dog who just suddenly starts to eat poop, if I have a puppy eating poop, okay, that's usually explainable, and I'm like, yeah, it's a puppy, whatever. These things happen. I'm just going to curve the behavior, and usually it goes away. But if I have an older dog, and suddenly this older dog just starts to eat poop out of the blue, I need to start evaluating environmentally what's going on, in its life what's going on. Are there big changes that maybe it's stress induced? But if I can't really find triggers that are really pointing at a specific thing, then I need to go to the vet and make sure that we're ruling out everything before I just buy a product that makes the dog not want to eat its poop. Again, it doesn't fix it. It just sort of, yeah, it gets rid of the eating poop thing possibly, but if there's more medical stuff to it, we need to get them checked out because the dog's health is so important to us. Because as you know, and I've talked about this in previous podcasts, if a dog is not feeling good, if they're feeling like, if they have the lethargy, if they have something going on, behaviors that we don't like, aggression, just lack of tolerance, those things start to pop out more. Think about when you're hurt or you're sick, you're not feeling well, and someone starts to just maybe push your buttons a little bit to where you usually can tolerate it, but now you can't because you feel like crap. That's the same with dogs. And then just like with eating poop, if it's allowed to happen, it can create bad behavioral habits like that aggression and things like that. So be really mindful about, what your dog is doing, why they're doing it, the nutrients they're getting, everything. Their health is so important to us, and this is just another cog in the wheel of things that we're trying to create to make sure that the dog is happy, healthy, feeling good, everything like that. Because if they're happy and feeling good, their life's going to be good, our life's going to be good. And so it's just something we need to consider. So guys, I hope it was helpful. If you want more information on this, there's a ton of different articles. As I was researching this, I wanted to make sure I had all my bases covered. There's a lot of articles out there that talk about this. So you can look them up to get more specific, or if you need it in writing, there's a lot of different ones. I won't necessarily tag one because I've read probably 10 different articles about this and kind of formed different opinions or different things based off of some of that and my own personal experiences. So you can look it up, but if you have any questions, whether it's behavioral and you need some help changing that, definitely reach out to us. Our email is contact@ondogtrainingacademy.com. And you can also go to our website, ondogtrainingacademy.com. You can see we do one-on-ones. We have a course there. We have a free webinar there that talks about, proactive dog training and the importance of it. But guys, I really hope this was helpful. If you think it's helpful to somebody else, make sure you share this episode to them because nobody wants a dog eating poop. That's just disgusting. And again, what person wants their dog licking their face after you saw them chewing on their turds? So, guys, if you liked it, like I said, make sure you share this with people. Leave a review for our podcast. We always like to hear how we're doing. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're not, hey, head over to YouTube and check out our channel. We got more information, more videos, more things there. So, guys, thanks so much for listening this week. And as always, we'll see you next time. Good dog.